At 5:11 local time, the surface search radar changes behavior. Not interference, not a ghost return, a clean, hard track. On the bridge, the watch officer says nothing at first. The contact holds steady, slow, measured, unremarkable. Then the numbers begin moving, speed increasing, bearing tightening. The contact is no longer drifting across the display. It is aligning. Surface contact, new acceleration. The words are flat, routine, logged. Steel doesn't accelerate like that without a reason. The sea is calm. The horizon is clear. To the naked eye, nothing has changed. But inside the ship, the systems already know what the eyes don't. The contact is closing from the forward quadrant, its course now nearly reciprocal to the carrier's heading, distance updates in quiet, mechanical increments. Closest point of approach recalculates, then recalculates again, smaller each time, no AIS signal. No response to the initial hail, no course adjustment. On the flight deck, crews pause mid-motion of voyage, not because an alarm sounds, there isn't one yet, but because experienced sailors feel the moment a situation crosses from background noise into something that requires attention. The contact continues to accelerate, 22 knots, then 25. The watch officer looks up from the console, not alarmed, focused. Recommend logging for unsafe maneuvering. The captain doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't move from the display. His eyes stay on the converging vectors. A warship does not drive straight at a carrier group by accident. Even the reckless understand that, unless being seen is the point. The first call goes out on bridge-to-bridge frequencies. Clear, measured, professional. No reply. A second call follows on the international distress channel. Same result. Through long-range optics, the contact's silhouette sharpens. Small hull, military mast configuration, weapons placement visible. Too deliberate to be a fishing vessel, too clean to be lost, unidentified surface contact. That designation holds for now. Inside the Combat Information Center, the track is promoted. Sensors shift priority. Nothing aggressive yet. No fire control radar illuminating, no weapon systems activating. But the geometry tells its own story without requiring interpretation. The ship is not shadowing the carrier group. It is not pacing at safe distance. It is driving down the carrier's path. Distance continues to collapse. At this proximity, a mistake becomes an incident. An incident becomes a headline. A headline becomes something no one takes back. Still no response, still closing. The carrier does not alter course. That decision is deliberate. Course changes are signals, and signals can be misread. The safest move sometimes is to hold position and force the other side to explain themselves with their actions. The contact offers no explanation. It offers only acceleration. On the bridge wing, binoculars come up. The hull cuts cleanly through the water, wake spreading wide as speed climbs again. The bow lifts just enough to confirm hard throttle. This is not drift. This is not navigation error. This is approach with intent. A quiet order moves through the ship. Not broadcast, not announced. Stations adjust. Systems transition from passive monitoring to active tracking. Everything remains controlled. Everything remains within legal authority. The contact is now inside the zone where intent matters more than capability. Another hail goes unanswered. Then the radar suite aboard the approaching vessel comes alive. Search mode, not fire control, but active. That detail is logged instantly, time-stamped, preserved. Electronic emissions don't lie even when radio operators do. Passive observation has ended on the other side. The approaching ship is now looking back, measuring, confirming what it already knows. It sees the carrier, it sees the escorts, it keeps coming anyway. On the bridge, the captain nods once. Maintain course. Record everything. No threats, no warnings, no escalation, just documentation, which is its own form of pressure. At 5:19, the track is reclassified, not on instinct, on data. The contact's profile resolves fully through long-range optics, hull geometry, mast architecture, weapons placement. The silhouette matches a known military class, not a patrol boat, not a repurposed commercial vessel, purpose-built naval steel. Nationality confirmed. Iranian. The confirmation moves through the ship without ceremony, no reaction, no commentary. Flags don't alter physics, and they don't alter procedure. But they do alter context. From this moment, every second carries additional weight. The Iranian warship does not slow. Its bow drives deeper into the water as throttle holds. The wake spreads with the confidence of a vessel being driven hard, not drifting passively. On the forward deck, movement becomes visible through optics, figures repositioning, spacing, widening. Hands resting in places hands don't rest during routine transit. Still no response to hails. That silence is not a communication failure. Naval crews are trained to answer radios even while posturing. Silence is a choice. It says the message is already being delivered and the answer will come through action, not words. The CIC begins a tighter tracking loop. Bearings update at shorter intervals. Range gates shrink. CPA recalculates again. The Iranian ship's radar emissions increase in power. Sweep rate quickens, still not fire control, but the margin between search mode and building a solution is now academic rather than meaningful. On the carrier's bridge, the captain remains still. He watches the plot, not the ship itself. The plot doesn't blink. It builds a story that optics alone cannot tell. Another hail, calm, direct, no reply. The carrier strike group does not scatter. Escorts maintain their spacing. Formation discipline holds. There is power in refusing to react prematurely. Sudden maneuvers create ambiguity. Predictability creates pressure. The Iranian warship now sits inside a range where its actions can no longer be framed as coincidence. Navigation error would have corrected by now. Miscommunication would have prompted a radio call. Neither has happened. On the carrier's deck, long-range cameras capture every second. The timestamp rolls forward without pause. This footage will not appear on news broadcasts, but it will matter when accounts are given and narratives are contested. The forward gun on the Iranian vessel shifts, just degrees, not enough to constitute aiming, enough to be seen. That movement is logged. On the American side, no weapons respond, no gun mounts rotate, no targeting systems activate. Restraint is not hesitation, it is discipline executing as designed. And discipline applied with precision is as effective as any weapon system aboard. Inside the CIC, a quiet exchange between two officers confirms what everyone already understands. This is no longer shadowing. Agreed. Shadowing maintains distance. Shadowing answers radios. This is something else. The helicopter detachment is notified, not launched. Pilots move to standby. Helmets secured, rotors still. Presence is being prepared, not yet displayed. The moment has not reached that threshold. There is no hurry. The Iranian ship holds speed, then increases again, 28 knots. That pushes toward the edge of its comfortable operating envelope for these sea conditions. Fuel burning, margin burning, options narrowing, the carrier does not move from its line. At 5:27, the geometry compresses past comfortable tolerance. The Iranian warship is now well inside the range where reaction time replaces intent as the dominant variable. At this distance, even a minor heading adjustment carries significance. Every degree is read, every knot is calculated. CPA updates again, smaller. The Iranian ship adjusts heading by just enough to keep the carrier dead ahead. Not parallel, not offset, centered. That adjustment is logged with the same precision as the earlier acceleration. Inside the CIC, the track is upgraded a final time. The system stops treating the contact as background maritime traffic and begins treating it as an actively maneuvering actor. The system doesn't presume hostility. It only needs to recognize that the other vessel is now shaping the encounter rather than transiting through it. The Iranian radar emissions spike again. Power up, sweep tighter, repetition rate increases, not fire control locked, but the practical difference is narrowing faster than the distance. On the bridge, the carrier's course and speed remain unchanged. This is not stubbornness. This is geometry as leverage. Predictability eliminates the other ship's ability to claim the Americans created the situation. Any escalation now belongs entirely to the vessel doing the approaching. A third hail goes out, shorter this time, more direct. Silence. That silence has changed character. Earlier, it was ambiguity, perhaps confusion, perhaps a radio malfunction. Now it is something deliberate. The Iranian ship is not failing to receive the calls. It is declining to answer them. That distinction is preserved in the record. On the forward deck of the Iranian vessel, visible through the helicopter detachment's long-range cameras as pilots complete pre-launch checks on deck, crew spacing has widened further. Figures have positioned themselves near the rail. The forward gun mount remains unmanned but is now uncovered, a conscious decision to display capability without activating it. Every visible detail is documented. At 5:31, the helicopter detachment receives the order. Stand by to launch. No alarm, no announcement, just motion, practiced, economical, unhurried. Pilots step onto the deck. Rotor crews move through their sequence. Blades remain still, not lifting yet. The deliberate choice not to launch carries its own signal. We are prepared. We are not provoked. The difference is intentional. The Iranian ship keeps closing. Distance now compresses quickly enough that the plot feels continuous. CPA is no longer a projection. It is imminent. Inside the CIC, a quiet voice. Contact is maintaining intercept geometry. That phrase is specific. It means the approach is being actively managed and not allowed to happen through inertia, but chosen and sustained. Someone on the other bridge is reading the same numbers and deciding not to change them. The rotor spins up, not rushed, measured. The wash rolls across the flight deck and sends a visible signal across the water separating the two ships. This is not intimidation. This is presence, lawful, controlled, and impossible to misread. The helicopter lifts and holds position low, offset within American formation space. It does not close toward the Iranian vessel. It does not point weapon systems. Cameras activate, sensors lock. The aircraft becomes an extension of the documentation already in progress. The Iranian radar reacts. Another sweep, slightly stronger, slightly faster, logged. From the helicopter's optics, the Iranian bridge is now clearly visible, windows reflecting sky. Figures moving inside. The ship's course remains steady. No flags raised, no lights signaled, no communication offered. The carrier group makes no move that could be characterized as escalating. No speed change, no course deviation, no weapons activation. That restraint applies more pressure than any maneuver could, because it leaves the other side entirely responsible for whatever happens next. At 5:35, the Iranian ship reaches the point where collision would require deliberate action to achieve. This is no longer the range of accidents. Any contact at this point would carry no credible explanation that the accumulated data would support. The helicopter's laser designator activates, non-lethal, non-aggressive. A steady point of light that settles briefly on the Iranian bridge windows, a message delivered without sound, without ambiguity, without escalation. The audio broadcast follows, calm, recorded, transmitted in 2 languages. You are operating in an unsafe manner. Alter course immediately. English first, then Farsi. For the first time since contact, the Iranian bridge shows visible change. Figures shift inside the glass. One steps forward, another turns away from the windows. The forward wake shortens slightly, barely perceptible unless you are measuring it with instruments that don't approximate. The escalation has reached its peak. Nothing has fired. Nothing has locked on. Nothing has violated the rules of engagement on either side. But the encounter has now compressed to a single question. Both bridges know what it is. At 5:39, the first real change appears. Not a turn, not a transmission, a reduction in wake. The white water behind the Iranian ship shortens, throttle eases. 28 knots becomes 25, then 23. That reduction is logged the moment it registers. The course doesn't change yet. The bow still points toward the carrier, but the aggression in the water has left. This is no longer a charge pressing toward a threshold. This is a vessel calculating an exit, how to disengage without the record showing retreat. On the Iranian deck, crew members begin stepping back from the rail. A figure moves away from the forward gun mount. Another disappears below the bridge line. These are not dramatic movements, they are careful ones. The movements of people repositioning toward a narrative that looks like a routine patrol concluding on schedule. The helicopter holds its position. No advance, no pursuit. Cameras continue. The record continues. At 5:41, speed drops again, 21 knots. The bow settles as hydrodynamic pressure relaxes. The wake narrows. The water between the two ships stops compressing and begins, slowly, measurably, to stabilize. On the carrier's bridge, no one speaks. Breakpoints are fragile. Discipline holds until separation is unambiguous, not merely suggested. The Iranian ship makes its first lateral adjustment, 2 degrees off the carrier's center line, then 3. A drift so gradual it could almost be described as passive, if the context didn't make it unmistakably deliberate. That heading change is recorded with exactly the same precision as the original acceleration. For the first time since contact, the geometry is no longer an intercept. The lines are diverging. Still close, still visible, no longer converging. The radio breaks open. A voice, measured, formal, chosen with care. United States naval vessel. We are conducting routine patrol operations in proximity to Iranian territorial waters. No apology, no acknowledgement of the hails, no recognition of the carrier's right of transit through international waters. Just enough language to preserve dignity. Just enough words to fill the silence without admitting what the silence meant. The American response is immediate. You are operating in international waters. Your actions are being documented. Maintain safe separation. Nothing further. No debate. No warnings. No escalation. The helicopter holds orbit for another full minute, not because the tactical situation requires it, because sustained presence after a confrontation reinforces what words alone cannot. The Iranian ship continues its slow lateral drift. Speed drops to 18 knots. The forward gun is covered. Deck activity quiets. The bridge windows reflect empty sky. This is disengagement, executed carefully, under full observation, with nowhere to go that isn't on the record. At 5:45, the closest point of approach begins growing larger for the first time. That single metric confirms what visuals already indicate. The window has closed. The moment that could have broken in either direction has passed. The helicopter receives the signal to withdraw, not rushed, not abrupt. It climbs, banks, and returns to the flight deck. Sensors remain active until the final moment. Nothing wasted. On the Iranian deck, a figure raises one arm, palm open. The oldest maritime gesture, wordless, universal, offered to water and air and anyone watching. The carrier group does not respond. Professional separation maintained. By 0550, the distance is no longer symbolic, 6 nautical miles and increasing. The Iranian ship holds a steady parallel course now, no longer pressing, no longer testing. The character of its movement has changed from pressure to transit. The sea settles back into the appearance of nothing happening. By 6:08, the contact has drifted to the edge of tactical relevance. Distance erasing immediacy. The track softens on the display and eventually crosses beyond practical range. The helicopter is secured on deck, rotors still. Data already mirrored across multiple systems, cataloged, time-stamped, preserved. In the Combat Information Center, the quiet work begins. Timelines reconstructed to the second. Radar emissions mapped against optical footage. Maneuvering data cross-referenced against communications logs. What the assembled record shows requires no interpretation. An Iranian warship accelerated directly toward a carrier strike group from the forward quarter. It ignored repeated hails across multiple frequencies. It activated naval radar systems while closing distance. It reduced speed only after sustained helicopter presence and laser designation. It departed without acknowledging the hails it had declined to answer. No adjectives required, no framing necessary. On the bridge, the captain watches the track drift beyond the display's edge. Then he speaks. Resume normal operations. No celebration, no debrief language over the intercom. Professional navies do not celebrate situations that could have resolved differently. They acknowledge outcomes and return to the work. The carrier had not changed course once during the entire encounter. That detail will matter when accounts are eventually given, and the geometry of who approached whom needs no argument to establish. In the hours that followed, the encounter generated no press release, no public statement, no official comment from either government. On the water, it looked like nothing had happened. Calm sea, clear horizon. 2 ships separating at routine speed. Inside the ship, that illusion didn't exist. What had occurred in those 57 minutes was not a confrontation resolved by firepower. It was a confrontation resolved at the exact edge of escalation, where discipline, documentation, and deliberate restraint proved more decisive than any weapon system aboard. The Iranian vessel had approached carrying a theory. That proximity itself was leverage. That close enough meant powerful enough. That a carrier group unwilling to fire first was a carrier group that could be pressured. What it found instead was a carrier group that had no need to fire first because it had already won the encounter before the first hail went unanswered, through documentation, through geometry, through the accumulated weight of a record that required no interpretation. The ship left with a story it cannot fully tell, because the parts it might want to tell are on film, and the parts it would prefer to omit are on the same film, in the same timestamp, in the same unbroken sequence. Modern deterrence doesn't always announce itself with launch warnings and weapons locks. Sometimes it announces itself with a helicopter that holds position and cameras that never stop recording. And sometimes the most consequential thing a ship can do is hold its course and let the other side write the record for itself. No shots fired, no damage taken, no statements issued, just a carrier holding its line in open water and a warship that came to deliver a message and left having received one.